For those of us who study the rise and fall of nations, the Great Depression isn't just an old wound. It's a map. A map showing how ordinary people survived when entire systems collapsed. Before we break down the lessons that matter today, make sure you're subscribed to Warpaths of Europe, because this is where history becomes a tool you can actually use. Now, let's get straight into it. Battlefield survival. The first lesson is that debt becomes deadly long before collapse is obvious. In the late 1920s, families, banks and even governments leaned on borrowed money to sustain lifestyles and speculation. When the crash hit, debt didn't just tighten, it strangled everything. Today, this applies to personal finance in the simplest form. If your monthly obligations rely on perfect conditions, you're already exposed. Reducing high-interest liabilities, building a cash buffer, and avoiding lifestyle debt is not theory. It is precisely how people who kept their homes and businesses alive in the 1930s managed to stay afloat. A modern example is cutting down consumer credit dependence and shifting that money into liquid reserves, something Depression survivors called their hard floor. The second lesson is that self-sufficiency beats optimism every single time. Those who had gardens, livestock or small workshops didn't just survive. They traded, bartered and maintained leverage while markets collapsed. Today, this is as simple as building at least one income stream that isn't tied to your employer or a fragile industry. Think of skills such as repair work, digital services or small-scale production. You don't need a farm. You need a trade that continues regardless of market mood. People in the Depression who could fix machinery or produce food didn't wait for jobs to return. They created their own economic gravity. The third lesson is that, cash flow mattered more than stored wealth. Many people in the 1930s had assets on paper, stocks, land or inventory, but no liquidity when disaster struck. Those with steady small earnings, even if humble, outperform people with bigger but frozen wealth. Applying this today means prioritizing predictable income over risky long-term bets. For example, a modest rental, a recurring freelance contract, or a side business producing shelf-stable goods can outmatch a volatile investment account when markets tighten. Survivors of the Depression teach us that stable trickles beat unstable torrents. The fourth lesson is that community networks are economic engines in disguise. During the worst years, people leaned on local circles for food exchanges, shared childcare, pooled tools, and collective buying. These weren't sentimental gestures. They were survival systems. In today's context, this means building real connections with neighbours, professional peers, and local groups. Something as simple as joining a cooperative, contributing to a mutual aid effort, or forming a skills exchange circle can create modern equivalents of the Depression-era community grid. The final lesson is that emotional discipline is a financial strategy. Panic selling, fear buying, and reactive decisions destroyed families in the 1930s as much as the economic storm itself. People who slowed down, assessed the ground, and acted deliberately preserved far more than those who followed the crowd. Applying this today means creating rules before crisis hits, when to sell, when to buy, when to wait. It's not about optimism. It's about steadiness. These lessons aren't relics. They're warnings and tools, proven under the harshest conditions. If you found this breakdown valuable, subscribe to Warpaths of Europe and share it so more people can learn from the past before the next storm arrives.